2020 has had a tremendous impact on the way we work. COVID-19 has transformed our day-to-day habits. And on a positive note, we've seen a more active push to make our workplaces more inclusive. Breakfast Television caught up with Dr. Sonya Kang about her new podcast that examines today's challenges and how to overcome them.
Welcome to For the Love of Work.
The way that we designed this podcast is we wanted it to really touch on themes that are important to anyone who's working really at any role at any stage in their career. So we touch on topics that should be important and interesting to anyone. So we touch on things like today's episode, which just came out on inclusion and diversity. Our first one was on resilience, which is super important, especially right now. We touch on things like learning and development, values, how to find meaning at work, how to stand out at work. So just a real assortment of topics that will help you sort of feel great about your job.
Which we all need because there's been so much change. What do employees do in terms of, striving to be more inclusive and in terms of representation and diversity?
Absolutely. So we cover a lot of this in the podcast. And a lot of it has to do with just thinking about representation, thinking about whose voices are being heard in the space, who has power, and who's able to make different changes and rise to the top of organizations. So in the episode, we talk about a lot of different topics like allyship, so how to be there and support employees around you, creating inclusive spaces so that everyone feels welcome and feels like they can do their best at work.
And there's a lot of fear and sometimes silence. People are afraid to maybe seem or sound ignorant on a topic. And this is a great way to learn is by listening, to you and these experts on a podcast. Let's talk about COVID-19. It's also created this huge fundamental shift in the way we work.
When we started making the podcast, it was kind of pre-COVID, right? And so we really had to adjust and think about how to make the themes that we were talking about relevant to everyone living through the pandemic. And what we found is that really all it did was kind of elevate and highlight all of the themes that we had already chosen and really just showcase how important they are at any time and especially now. So there's a whole new set of challenges that people are experiencing, a lot of complications that people are experiencing with working from home, trying to stand out remotely, trying to create these inclusive workplaces remotely. And so we touch on all of the same topics throughout the podcast, but really trying to shine a light on how things have become different now with the pandemic.
For more information, head to fortheloveofwork.ca. I'm Dina Pugliese.